Hey everyone, it's Emily. Today's video is going to be a unboxing slash book haul video where I share with you the books that I've been purchasing in the last month-ish with Black Friday, all the sales. I went a little crazy. I feel like December is always the month where I go crazy. There's like Christmas also, I'm going to get some gifts. I'm going to buy myself some gifts. Books are always the best thing to get for yourself or ask people to buy you. So I'm going to be going through them. I'm going to try and go kind of quick because a lot of these are like things I've been interested in, but I don't necessarily remember the whole synopsis. I'm going to start with this ridiculous box from BookOutlet. If you don't know, I am a BookOutlet vlogger friend, so I will be linking my page down below so you can see the books that I have been purchasing. I did open it before filming because I was way too excited. I did buy these during the Black Friday sale. The price of the books are already low, but with 30% off, I went crazy. The first book in the box is The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware, which I actually planned on reading this from my library. A year ago, I put myself on the waiting list and I was 300 and something, which is crazy. And currently I'm 200 and something, which is why I'm always saying that I don't like my library. It just sucks. So when I saw it there for pretty cheap with the 30% off, I decided to get it. I have read In a Dark Wood by her and I did like it, but everyone seems to like this one even better. And who doesn't want to read a good thriller? So I've heard great things. I wanted to see how I personally feel about it. So I got it and I will be reading it. But I feel like currently I'm kind of a little over thrillers. I've been reading so many for fall that I need a little break, but after that I will be reading this one. The next one is part of a series that I'm planning on reading next year, so when I saw it in the edition that I want to collect, I grabbed it, and it is The Fate of the Tearling by Erica Johansson, and it's basically the Queen of the Tearling trilogy, which I have the first two books in the same edition with the like pretty spine, so when I saw it there, obviously I needed to get it. I don't know much about the series since I haven't read it yet, but that will change soon, you will see. From what I've heard is that basically it's a girl that comes into power, she becomes the queen, and everyone seems to not like the third book, so I wanted to have it so I can just basically binge read the trilogy. It's one of the things I wanted to change from my reading is basically when I start to read a trilogy, I want to or series, try to read the books back to back if I feel like it, because otherwise you either forget bits of it or you'll just never finish the series, which has been a huge problem for me. I want to finish series more next year, so having a third book will definitely make me read the whole thing in one go, possibly. This year was actually my first year reading any Stephen King's book, and I've read like 6 or 7, which I went a little overboard, but 2 of the books that I've read from him were from this edition, which I usually am not big on mass market paperback, but this edition I really like, and since I have so many of his books and I'm trying to like put them all on the same shelf, I think these would be practical. So there's 2 that I decided to get. There's, you know when you try to say a word too many times and it just doesn't feel natural anymore? That's kind of how it's going right now. Dolores Claiborne by Stephen King, obviously. So I don't know much about this. I've been wanting to read all of his books to give you reviews, so that will be one of them. And then there is Christine, which I believe it's like the car that is alive and like killing people or something. I don't remember exactly. I've never read it, obviously. So you can see this one's going to be a very long read, but when I saw them, I just decided to get them because I'm sure that soon enough I will be over my little Stephen King break and want to go back to his world. I have been meaning to read more of his books, Isaac Asimov, which I've read I, Robot earlier this year and I really liked it, and he has written so many books that I wanted to try and read some more, and this one was on my wish list for a while and then I saw it there so I had to grab it, and it is The End of Eternity. All I remember about this one is basically it's a sci-fi, which I have been dying to read more sci-fi, so this will definitely be on my list, and it's fairly short. I feel like most of his books are like 200 and something pages, or at least the ones that I've seen so far, so that should be a pretty quick read. This one is actually a second book in a trilogy, which I have ordered the first book on a different website, so I'm not just crazy hoarding the second book without having read the first one. And it is, the trilogy is actually called the Night's Dawn trilogy, and this is the second book in there. This is a Neutronium Alchemist, and it's by Peter F. Hamilton, and it's again a sci-fi series. I've been wanting to read more sci-fi. I feel like I haven't read enough this year. Actually, weirdly enough, you're gonna see it in my like wrap up of 2017. I feel like I've been really having eclectic reading taste this year. I've read a lot more contemporary than usually. Maybe it's kind of why I feel like my year was all over the place, and I haven't read as much fantasy and sci-fi as usually, so I will be rectifying this next year. But this, I have heard a great review. I feel like even on Goodreads there's like high ratings, and it's a pretty like classic sci-fi series, and it is absolutely huge. It's actually also the edition I wanted to read, so when I saw it, I had to have it. I thought it was actually older than this. It's 1997, which I guess is 20 years, which anyone that's also like all messed up with these things. I feel like 97 was not 20 years ago. Anyway, so when I saw it, had to have it. I also recently got the first book in the Culture series, which is also a sci-fi series, so clearly I've been like hoarding sci-fi books for next year. And I saw that they had the second book on BookOutlet, so I had to grab it, again, 30% off. And it is The Player of Games by Ian M. Banks, and another series that seems to have really great reviews. And I believe these ones are all like standalones in the same world, but there's kind of an order. I don't know if you have read this series, please let me know, but I saw the second one, so I had to grab it since if I like the first one, I will want it to continue. And this one has really, really great reviews too. I'm realizing like all of the books that I got except for like these are like sci-fi or fantasy. So the next one is Sphere by Michael Crichton. He's the author of Jurassic Park, which I've been wanting to read some of his books, and this one seems to have like mixed reviews, but it's a sci-fi. I remember reading what it was about and I felt super intrigued, and now I can't remember for the life of me. I believe it's about like a spaceship under the ocean. I tend to like to go into my books not knowing too much. I pretend like I try to forget what they are about, so I'm sorry I don't have much to say about it, but I've been really wanting to read this one, and I know it sounded interesting. Aliens. That's all that matters, right? And then the next three books are also books that aren't the first book in the series, so I got them because I really want to read said series, and you know, cheap books. This one is A Night Without Stars by Peter F. Hamilton. It's the same author as this book in the corner right there, and I believe this one is the second book in the Commonwealth series, something like that. So they had like that big gorgeous hardcover edition, so I had to grab it, but I am planning on reading the first one, so it won't be alone for a long time, but currently I don't own the first book. And this one is the third book in a series, which I guess is even worse, and it is The Wheel of Ocean. It's basically the third book in the Red Queen series by Mark Lawrence, but this is a fantasy series that I've been wanting to read. I haven't read anything from him yet, but I've heard really great reviews, and it's basically like classic fantasy book to read, so hopefully I will get to this next year. I've been really wanting to go back to books that just appeal to me. You're gonna see all of these opinions in my like book for 2018. Basically 2018, I want to go back to what interests me. I feel like sometimes when you watch a lot of booktube, you get sucked into reading like the newest books and everything, and a lot of them are YA, especially contemporary, which is not my usual genre. Some of them I really did enjoy, but I feel like overall it's been like making me feel more and more into slump and just avoiding the series that I've been dying to read for whatever reason, so I've been wanting to go back. So you've probably noticed in my latest hauls that I've been going back to those books. So the next book is one of those books that I'm like, why did you do that to yourself, Emily? Because this is the fourth book in a series that you don't even own yet. But the first book is something that I'm putting in my 18 of 2018, so if I am loving it, I will have the fourth book for cheap. And it is the Demon Cycle series by Peter F. Breath, and this is the fourth book, which is The Skull Throne. Let's just not talk about it. So those were all the books that I got from BookOutlet. I also got, finally, my order from the Book Depository. The first book that was in there was The Last Town by Blake Crouch, which is the third book in the Wayward Pine series, which I loved that series. So much better than the TV show. If you're gonna watch a TV show, please do yourself a service and just start by the books, because so much better. I was like afraid, because it took 2 months for this book to arrive, so I finished the TV show and I was like, oh my god, that ending is like not really what I wanted, and the book was much, much better. So finally have it. Obviously read it like instantly, so. The second book in that order was this one, which is another one by Michael Crichton, and this is Timeline, which again, it's been so long that I kind of forgot, but I believe you're following someone that it's kind of a like goes back in time type of person. But it's been 2 months, so I kind of forgot a little bit, but I kind of like forgetting about books, so. Then the rest of the books are books that I found used either at Value Village or my library sale, so a lot of really good books. The first one is The Diviners by Libba Bray, which is kind of a horror fantasy, I believe, trilogy. The third book came out recently, so people have been talking about it, and I saw it and I was like, you know what? I will be getting it. I didn't realize how big this thing was though. But I believe it's all about like ghosts and demons among us type of book, which is a very popular YA subject, I believe, but I feel like the hype has been high enough that I wanted to see it for myself. I also found this one, which I was really excited. I feel like very often fantasy books are usually series or like trilogies or 50 books and they never end. But this one is a standalone, which, how exciting. And it is The Goblin Emperor. The Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison. And that's basically all I know about this. It's a standalone. I've heard great reviews. I'm excited to read it. I just know there's magic and goblins in here. I have a few more sci-fi. The first one is a classic one by Kim Stanley Robinson. This is Red Mars. I believe it's a trilogy. The next ones are like Blue Mars, Green Mars, something like that. And it's absolutely huge. But again, I've been wanting to get lost into huge books that are classic sci-fi or fantasy. So that was there. I grabbed it. That's another thing you're going to see. 2018 is going to be the year of big books because I've been avoiding them. Like, my average book was like 370 pages, but it's still kind of on the low side for me. So the next one I found is Luna, the New Moon by Ian McDonald. I've been wanting to read something that would satisfy what Artemis didn't do for me. Basically, it happened on the moon and I wasn't really happy with the book. So when I saw this one, I'm like, maybe this will do. We are so not done. I have so many more. I have been reading a few Neil Shusterman books, and this one have heard great reviews about it. It's Challenger Deep, and I believe it's about like coming of age. Oh, I didn't even notice. It's actually signed. And I believe this is a coming of age type of book. I believe maybe about depression too. We'll see. It's kind of a contemporary, which I just said that I was like trying to avoid reading so many of them, but this one I have read some of his books and I did enjoy them, so I'm still open obviously to read some. I'm not like avoiding all YA contemporary books, so this one had great reviews and I've heard great things. So this one is also something I've heard great reviews. It's a YA, I think it's a magical realism, which I have not been lucky. I feel like I haven't been enjoying those books in general, and since this one had great reviews, I was like, you know what, maybe it's just the books that I have read that weren't for me and this one might do it for me. It is The Strange and Beautiful Sorrows of Ava Lavender by Leslie Walton. If I remember correctly, because I don't like remembering things, this one, it's basically you follow a few different generations and the girl is born with wings and I'm into it. I feel like this one is apparently something that will give you all the feels in the world. And I feel like when you read a lot of like really battle sci-fi fantasy, sometimes you just want to feel all the feels, so this will be there for that. Another one that I believe the reviews said that I should feel all the feels, I've heard a few people mention that I needed to read this, so I got it when I saw it. It's Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close by Jonathan Safran Foer, and I believe the main character is a young kid and he goes around New York trying to figure out what the key that his dad left him when he died, like what it opens basically. So I'm assuming there's going to be all the feels in this one too. And then the last section is basically me showing 4 books that are fantasy, so I'm gonna get my fantasy fix very soon. The first one is YA and it is Fallen Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes, and this one is part of, what's the series? I think the series is Fallen Kingdoms. So the first book in that series, I have heard mixed things about it overall, but there's like a new series in the same world that just came out, so people have been mentioning it. So when I saw it, I had to get it. I really like deciding for myself if those like hype books are worth it or not. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not, but obviously everyone has different taste. The last 3 are books that I did buy new. Actually, there's a few more there. So I did buy a few books that are new, which I don't do often. The first one, I've heard so many people mention it, so I had to get it. This is Traitorous Blade by Sébastien de Castel, which is a newer fantasy series. Maybe it's not that new, because I believe there's like 4 books that are out, so maybe I'm just really late. But so many people have been telling me to get this. It's kind of a fantasy, kind of Three Musketeer type of book, so excited. Then I have the first book in the Demon Cycle series that I had mentioned, because this is going to be in my 18 of 2018, I believe, or some type of, basically I want to read this in 2018, so I'm not that crazy that I got the 4th book, because I do have the first one too. So this one is The Painted Man by Peter V. Breath. This is very high on my TBR list. It's gonna happen very soon. Another series that I've heard people mentioning that are like classic sci-fi, classic fantasy, and it is the belgariad series. And this one is like a 3-in-1, which I'm such a fan of those type of volume, because why buy 3 books when you can buy 1? And it is by David Eddings. I don't know much about it except, again, kind of classic fantasy series and 3 books in 1. And then last but not least, I got 2 different series in a pack. The first one, I've heard a few people mention it even on BookTube, and it is the First Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. And it's also a series that I've been really wanting to read. I wanted to read more like adult fantasy series, so that will be in there. And then last but not least, I was asking which series by this author I needed to start with, and this one seemed to be the one. So this is the Seven Realms series, I believe. And it is by, so there's not the whole name of the author, but it's like Cinda William Chama, something like that. So I have the 4 books. I believe that's all in that series, but at least I have the 4 first books. So again, something that is a like fantasy series. This one is YA that I've heard a few people mention on BookTube too. So those are all the books that I have been purchasing. I'm very excited to get back into like the sci-fi fantasy series world, because I've been avoiding them too much. So what books did you buy this month? Which ones are you excited to go to? Are you like me and like living like in the future, excited for 2018? Did you already get to choose your goals and stuff? I will do a video about this, but I'm just excited. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to not miss any future videos. I will be putting on the screen some other videos that I filmed that I highly recommend you check out, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.